program, and let's bring Mike Bjorkman. He's going to be giving away a house, apparently, right, Mike?
God, you guys got to stop saying that.
Well, you want to be boom boom or what?
I want to do whatever possible to help the local charities in Dan that doesn't cost me a couple $100,000.
Oh, okay, very good. All right, well, what's the word of the day here today?
The word of the day today is our viewers been emailing and calling and asking about our market is so dreadful for a buyer right now. If you're under 400,000, 20 offers is normal right now. And so what I thought I'd do is answer the questions that the viewers had and talk about how I help our buyers get the homes, and at the same time give Santa Clarita the tips. If they're not working with me, unfortunately, I'll at least tell them to tell their agents what to do. And that way I can help a lot of people. So what I did when we were sitting there watching The Awesome Dan is I took some notes, and these are the things that I do to help people. And I just kind of wanted to go over that. It's really frustrating right now if you're trying to find a place, and that's my main goal. Is what'd you find there? Better stop now. Okay. So the notes I took down today, if you're working with an agent, writing an offer on a home, there's one thing that I learned back in 96, 97 when the market first started picking up. And the verbiage I put in the offer is buyer to have the right to pay $1,000 over the highest offer, not to exceed blank. So if you have a multiple offer situation, typically what we do is say highest and best, and that's what we counter offer back, and everybody goes, okay, 410, 411, 412. So my clients have the opportunity to say, okay, I'll pay $1,000 over the highest offer, and not to exceed blank in case it gets too ridiculous or out of their comfort zone. That is the number one secret weapon that I've had for years and years and years. I hate to give it away to all my competition, but it is what it is. And then some of the other things are, appraisals are a big deal right now. We know the government has a strong hold on our prices. So if I'm representing a seller and I get multiple offers, I'm looking for an agent or a buyer that has the ability to remove an appraisal contingency. So again, if the home is 400,000 and the appraisal comes in at 380, does that buyer have the ability to bring in that $20,000? So if they'll remove that contingency, it makes me feel comfortable that I have a real buyer. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Right.
Paying owner's costs is very common in my offers, because what happens is the owner says, why would I take this offer over another one? Well, if my buyer is willing to help pay the owner's closing costs, that's a big difference in today's market. Nobody else is doing that.
Because there's so many fees involved on the seller side.
When a buyer buys, phone's ringing. When a buyer buys a home, their closing costs are typically 3%, 1% for loan, 2% closing costs. The seller has a 2% closing cost, but they have a 6% commission on that. That's 8% compared to, So we'll write the offer, buyer to pay 1% or whatever it is of seller's closing costs. And the seller goes, I like that one. Sure. So we throw that in as a little trick.
Because then ultimately, it's the net effect for the seller.
It's the net effect.
They have to look at, ultimately, isn't it?
And it shows that the buyer is very serious. Also, some of the things that we do is we remove contingencies quickly. And we increase buyer's deposit. So typically, in our average price range, a buyer might put down $5,000 for a deposit. Well, I encourage my buyers to put a lot more down. Show that you're a real strong, serious buyer, and remove the contingencies quickly. So if a buyer removes their contingencies in 7 days, that seller knows that if the buyer backs out, they get their deposit, and it's a large one. So we know we're dealing with a very serious buyer, especially when I represent my sellers. I always try to tighten the contingency period up like that. Makes it for real. So moving on, the higher deposits we talked about. A lot of the agents nowadays are so frustrated with the market, they'll just fax or email me offers, and they don't even call me to see if I get it. Well, they have a real buyer on the other side that's human, and they don't understand that it's important for that agent to call me and bond with me a little bit. Hey, Mike, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they live in the area, they're wonderful, they're these people, they like the house because of this. Gets me a little bit emotionally attached to the buyer so I can help tell the owner of the property, this is who's going to be moving into your home. What happens is my owner or the owner of the home, if I'm representing the buyer, gets to know the buyer a little bit. Now they want them to have the house over somebody that they don't know anything about. And so when we do run into owners, when I'm showing a home, I'll tell the buyer, hey, shake their hand, say some nice things about their home, let them know who you are in case you decide to buy this home, they'll remember you. Little things make such a big difference with me. Things like don't ask for home warranty. If it's not necessary, It's $500. Don't nickel and dime the owners to death. And here's the biggest ones right here. Give the seller more time to vacate. So escrow to be 45 days, seller to have 7 days to vacate. That way the seller knows they can close escrow and have 7 days to comfortably move. Or more important right now, oftentimes the seller's moving up in this market or moving away, and they're having a hard time finding a home. So if a buyer will write the offer subject to the homeowner finding their new home of choice, that's huge, because now you have a homeowner saying, good, I have no pressure, I have a good qualified buyer willing to jump through hoops for me, and they're going to let me find another house.
You know, you talked
That
about...
is so huge in today's market, and most agents won't offer things like that up.
You had mentioned about, you know, getting to know the seller a little bit and going in and shake their hands and compliment them, talk to them, let them get to know you a little bit. The exact opposite happened to me when we had our first house up in Northbridge, and we were selling that. A woman from the valley was coming up to buy it. She breezed past me, didn't even want to give me the time of day, was looking around, was very sour, a very, you know, sullen kind of person, very depressed looking person.
How bad did you want her to have your home?
Not at all. Here's the thing.
My point
she
proved.
came up with an offer, and dollar-wise, that was the one. So then she was going to buy the house. When she came back through to tour it again, she didn't talk to us at all. She didn't mention anything. She was just, again, very depressed and started talking about putting up fences in the front yard. And I started thinking, I don't want my neighbors to have this person. I love my neighbors. I'd become really close. It really, fortunately, she backed out of the deal. But if I had had the multiple offer situation, someone like that, even if that person had the top dollar, I would not have wanted that person to be getting my house.
Yeah, so my point proven exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you know, when I sold real estate, one of the reasons why I was so successful is because I made it a pleasant experience. So many realtors that will go into it with, it's going to be a battle, and and that doesn't help anyone. That there's the ego. You can't have that. You have to have this is someone's home. This is their life, and you need to make it a good experience for everyone. And that was why people liked to work with me, because I was the fun girl that got along and everyone was happy.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just the way you are. And that's why
Yeah,
you're
several
Mike's
years
a fun
ago,
girl?
several years ago, it was all about how can we negotiate the price lower. Now it's just how do we even have a shot at getting this home? And you know, we went through this market before. All these tips and tricks aren't new to me. We did this long time ago. So when people, you know, basically, like I spoke last week in Dallas, and I was speaking to a bunch of agents, and they asked me, why do you get so many buyers represented? And these are the things. And they're like, oh, wow, I didn't know you could do that. Licensed people. Their job is to represent their buyers to the best of their ability. Didn't even know about these tricks or haven't thought about these. And they're not really tricks, they're just common sense things. What can we do to make the seller's life better? Right. You know, back in 2002, 2003, I remember my buyers writing into the offer, owner to get my 2003 Jaguar, you know, or I remember the agents writing, listing agent to get selling agents 1% bonus, you know, giving the, I mean, it was crazy. So now this is nothing. It's just, but it's a matter of good reputation and, you know, different things to make the owners.
Do you have one transaction from all your years that just really stands out as like a really great moment for either a buyer or seller? Like that one moment, like, wow, I love my job. This is so great that we made this together.
You know,
you probably have several.
I have a lot of them. They're obviously the ones where some of the special needs children I've worked with that, you know, had lived in wheelchairs and had second level apartments, or, you know, they lived with different situations, and then I get to move them into a handicap accessible one story, or I've worked with a lot of nonprofit organizations over the years to where these homes get donated to my clients, or grants, things of that nature. And you know, after 20 years and thousands of homes sold, I still get teary-eyed every time I hand somebody their keys, because I know what it feels like. I've bought homes before. But when it's a family, and I guess I'm not really emotionally attached to stuff, but people really do get, and I know I get all, you know, emotional about it, so I can only imagine how others feel. And when I see, and I'm a people person, I study personalities, I train personalities, and when I hand them the keys and I look into somebody's eyes, I can tell really what they're feeling. And that'll break me down, bring me to my knees every time, because I can really feel that they're appreciative and we really made a difference in their life. That's what it's all about for me. You know, I love to negotiate, I love to find homes that nobody else can find, but when I hand them those keys, man, it's a feeling that you just couldn't imagine.